Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to what I would like to refer to as monsters and managers, or managers and monsters, however you want to look at it. And this is going to go on all of my channels on NoDQ.com, on BigVito.com, and on WrestlingWithWrestling.com. I am joined today by a very special guest. He is the Trust Fund. He is known as Jared Silver Clyte.
Handle it. It's Jared Silver Clyte. L-B-E-R-K-L-T.
Well, my apologies. So should I call you Mr. Silver Clyte or just Jared?
As long as you have the spelling and pronunciation down, I will for the remainder of this discussion.
All right. Well, I will spell it for you to make sure that I have it right. I have capital S-I-L-B-E-R-K-L-E-I-T. Is that correct?
Well
sir?
done. Well done. Correct.
All right. Well, thank you for joining me, Virtue. For people that listen to you, Mr. Jared Silver Clyte, that don't know who I am, I contribute to a few wrestling websites, and I have a very special topic I want to discuss today, and you are the perfect guest to have. And really, when it comes down to it, I was having this discussion with some other people, and I think this is a lost art of professional wrestling, and that is a very good vocal manager like yourself and great monsters. And I don't know if you know who Congo Kong is, but I talked with him about a year ago, and I said to him, to me, this is a lost art. And he looked at me, scratched his head, didn't say anything. But I think he was thinking the same thing. So I want to let you have this floor before we get into any details of classic managers and their clients. Do you have anything to say, Mr. Silver Clyte? And we all know you manage the reigning Northeast Wrestling heavyweight champion, Big Wrecking Ball Legursky. So take it, man.
Absolutely. I would agree that it does feel like it's somewhat of a lost art. Managers, you called it. I'm very proud to manage not one but two super heavyweights for Northeast. Ryan Malonis, who's currently on Ring of Honor TV, as well as the champion Wrecking Ball Legursky. Certainly speak for Wrecking Ball when he kind of considers himself in that same vein. He recognizes that he's kind of so. It's so because we've seen a progression as far as where the in wrestling, and for guys that really carry themselves like a true monster, you almost don't see it as often these days. I think that's what is helping a lot. That's why I know I like being with him, because to me he's so larger than life in his way, which helps me become larger than life in my way. And we have a really great dynamic playing off of one another.
Now, you know what's interesting is this week I am going to Northeast Wrestling Show in Niles, Ohio, Wrestling Under the Stars, this Saturday, July 21st, 7:30 p.m. I would get there sooner. And I kind of am glad that I'm not talking to Wrecking Ball yet on video, because I think it's going to be so much more dynamic to maybe be standing next to him, or I don't know if I have the opportunity, because I'm sure I'm like 5'7". And to me, it's all about larger than life. I love that. I want to be intimidated by wrestlers. I want to be scared. How did you get into doing what you do? And if you want to speak for Wrecking Ball too, since he's not here, how he got into it, I'd be glad to know that as well, because I am very interested.
Absolutely. Well, to go over Wrecking Ball's start in professional wrestling briefly, it was the next step for him after his football career was over. He was an offensive lineman through both high school and once that part of his life was over, he channeled all that aggression and energy and just intimidation just took it to the next level in professional wrestling. He once told me that whatever athletic activity he ever participated in, whether it was amateur football, anytime that he achieved was never through finesse or skill or anything artistic like that, or sheer brutality, domination, and that is everything that he's put into what he presents in the right now. And let me tell you, when I started managing in pro wrestling, I who absolutely believed that he was an unstoppable killing machine. And really, I mean, it turned out to be, I guess not to get sappy, but a match made because far one way, he is so far another way, and it's a perfect combination. I started managing about a year ago. I was trying to find my place in wrestling as a ring announcer and interviewer before that. Yep. And the opportunity came about to manage him on a show. And it really just seizing that spotlight, I found the right extension of my personality. And what you see is what has been such a button pusher in real life. And this was my platform to amplify that. So we're kind of cut from the same cloth in the sense that for both of us, it's very much a natural extension.
You know, and what's cool is I'm looking at your avatar and I see you wearing a fabulous suit, in my opinion. And I know other people will agree with me, but yet it's the same type of wardrobe that will piss many people off. That is the dynamic. I understand what you do. What Wrecking Ball does is supposed to intimidate and piss people off. And that's what I miss. So when I look at today's wrestling product, and we're not going to bash any promotion, but I really only see Paul Heyman and Brock Lesnar. I know there are others out there, and we're talking big stage. Do you see yourself and your clients, Wrecking Ball in specific, more like that or something more to the old school effect? And I'm going to name these two, and I want your thoughts on them. So I'm wearing a Bobby the Brain Heenan shirt, so I got to start with him. Bobby and Andre, to me, was the first manager and monster. I know you can go back earlier than that. We had Captain Lou. We had Classy Freddie Blassie. But I was born in the 80s, so I'm going to start with Bobby and Andre. Also, Bobby and Bundy. So Bobby's the first manager I want to talk about. Do you see yourself like any of the old school guys or more like Heyman? See, I think I don't see Heyman as those same guys back in the past. Go ahead, man.
I think for where we're at right now, it's kind of I think this is the easy answer, but I feel pretty comfortable in saying that we're kind of somewhere in the middle, and this is drawn both from the press. I know for myself as a manager, when I first started, I took a lot of inspiration from, and I think it was getting more comfortable. I think just, the more I went out there, the more I felt like I could keep pushing the envelope as far as being more of a personality and more cartoonish as opposed to just like. So I definitely think that I'd like to think that playing a bit of Heenan, a bit of some old school Jim Cornette, and for Wrecking Ball, I mean, he's straight out of the 1980s. The real athletic background, however, the presentation, I think, is very much in the vein of a King Kong Bundy, a Bam Bam Bigelow. I think that if you put him and Bam Bam side by side, you'd assume that they were. I think that
That's I think comparison, because I have, for those of you who don't know, I have watched Wrecking Ball live perform, so that's a good comparison. Now, I bring Bobby Heenan up because, back then we just didn't have one manager on the big stage. I got to talk about the big stage. Obviously, we know there were the territories. There was NWA, turned into WCW. So we get that. But, in New York, that's what we call the big stage. And we had Bobby, but we had so many other managers getting the bad villains over. And Jimmy Hart's another guy. And I remember at one point, correct me if I'm wrong, and Jimmy Hart managed King Kong Bundy.
Correct.
He then traded him or signed him over to Bobby Heenan. That to me was brilliant. And if I'm incorrect on that, it was something like that. I believe it was King Kong Bundy. To me, that was just great storytelling. And again, it was colorful managers, larger than life monsters. Any thoughts on Jimmy Hart and who did a better job managing King Kong Bundy, in your opinion? If you go back that far.
Oh, absolutely. Jimmy Hart is another guy inspiration from, and he and I actually had an interaction. I'm sure you remember at last year's Wrestling Under the Stars event in Ohio. He, of course, put me on my back when he knocked me out. Yeah, I mean, to compare him and Heenan, Bundy, I mean, they're both so great in their own way. I will say this is if a rabbit hole.
Yes.
His dynamic is something that really resonated for the both of us. That the two of them filmed for a match against Hulk Hogan at MS. Sure, it's got a lot of traction on YouTube, but I just remember the first time that he and I watched it together, side by side. That is us. That's us right there.
Now, this was a promo with Jimmy Hart and
not Bundy, but Earthquake. Yes, and you guys saw Jimmy Hart bouncing up and down like yeah. Hulkamania's gonna end, that sort of thing. It looked at a little runt little manager should be doing, hiding behind this big guy and trying to almost jump up like he's almost as big as him.
Yes, I totally see that. And Bobby and Jimmy were different in the way that Bobby was, when he got into the ring and had to take his bumps, he did it. But he was more of the dress and the sparkly suit, and he wanted, he was more at the side of his guys, where Jimmy was behind them, but got that megaphone going. And you know what? When I look at you in Wrecking Ball, I do see, from my perspective, Jimmy Hart Earthquake. And that, to me, that's a great thing. So hopefully you take that as a compliment.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, like I said, when we first saw that promo, we just thought this is, not verbatim, but the general idea. That's what we need to go for. So whenever that's how he sounds. Every word is you don't forget it, and it sounds like this uncaged animal. And I mean, he embraces it. Man, does he! I love it too.
Yep. Now tell me about stables, because you have what you like to call trust fund. I assume it's growing, right? Because it's your trust fund. It's constantly growing. You're an investor. You know what you're doing. Is it going to get to how we used to see some of these old time stables in wrestling? Is it going to get big like that?
Absolutely. I think that if somebody, I guess the one thing that you have the potential for overexposure as a manager, but the way I always thought about it was, if somebody gets involved in wrestling from a non-wrestling standpoint, you have a vested in acquiring these athletes to represent you, why would you stop at just one? So I started with just Wrecking Ball. Now I've got Brian Malonis. And between the two of them, you've got these two beasts. And if it's worked out so well so far that I could, developing further in the future who I might choose to invest in next. And I think that's another way to just keep the people guessing, he's got all this money. Where is it going next? Whose pockets is he going to line next?
Yep. And you know what I noticed from you lately, and Bobby Heenan was really good at this. Mr. Fuji all the managers have gotten physically involved, but obviously recently, for people that don't know, Wrecking Ball became the Northeast Wrestling Heavyweight Champion by defeating one Flip Gordon.
Correct.
How did you find yourself in a match shortly after that against Flip? And do you have any battle scars?
Well, I've certainly got the scars. I'll get into that in a moment. But essentially, they went to war twice, and I know that it was especially the first time, it was a match that Wrecking Ball really, it was his chance to not only, of course, become the champion, but to do it against a guy who is on the rise. To beat Flip Gordon, it's another thing to beat Flip Gordon right now because of where he's already been as far as Ring of Honor, Best of the Super Juniors. So, I mean, we thought that he was peaking when he won the title, and now, his stock has only gotten bigger. So that does that much more for Wrecking Ball. Being able to, I got involved both times. The first time, Terrence went haywire, and I hit. He lost, and they had a rematch where if in the ring with me, I ended up interfering. I cost flipped the match by shoving him off the top. So after our boss, Michael Lombardi, who runs, then announced that I was going to have to take on Flip. Be fired, and Michael himself was going to be the referee.
I love that dynamic. What just happened there?
Yep.
and you know what? I saw some photos, and you had that match with Flip, and I'll tell you what. I bet you felt it, and I bet you still are feeling it.
Yeah, absolutely. It was expected. What ended up unfolding, them just chopping me to pieces. I certainly tried every book as far as throwing powder in my boss's eyes. And although I did get that one slap on Michael forever. But Flip, he just laid into me with those knife edge chops, bleeding when it was over. For the next couple of days, it felt like it was dropped a cinder block on me. So he, I would think that he's satisfied. I would think he's satisfied that he got his revenge because he chopped me to bits. It was super unfair. My guys weren't there. I had a biased referee, but
so was Wrecking Ball there to come and carry you away afterwards, or nobody was out there at all?
Nope. I had to crawl to the back all on my own. I would have gotten to the back faster if Wrecking Ball was there, but or else he would have been fired. So it was me just kind of left out there to be, hey, I hate to.
But the beauty of it is you went through that. You earned battle scars as a wrestling manager, and Big Wrecking Ball is still the champion, and he is still your client in the trust fund. So you now get to come out when we're there at Niles on Saturday and represent everything you've worked for. How does that feel like when you've been through this whole path of how you came into the wrestling business, who you paired up with, maybe not thinking that was the direction you were going to go,
right.
Getting to be the manager of a champion in a fairly successful indie promotion here in the Northeast. They're doing shows. They're from Massachusetts area, Connecticut, and they're here doing shows in Ohio.
Oh,
to me, that's successful. And you are part of it, and your guy is the champion. Like, just how does it feel making your way up the ranks to where you are?
Oh, it's extremely satisfying just because getting my start in Northeast wrestling, I think that kind of keeping nobody would have ever expected, me included, my career to be taking this kind of turn, because me and seeing how they were expanding business-wise as far as starting with just one outdoor Wrestling Under the Stars show and then expanding to an entire stadium tour, and just trying to earn, whether it was through announcing or behind the scenes or wherever I could a hand to take center stage. And year later, 1 year after we first formed this alliance, to know that we've taken it to this level of success where Wrecking Ball has now beaten guys like Flip Gordon, like Jack Swagger, and now he's the champion heading into marquee matches. He's defending against Swagger this Saturday Niles in front of these huge baseball stadiums. It's pretty surreal. Northeast wrestling is pretty much the place to be of when it comes to non-television companies, wrestling is right at the top of the list for any place in this country.
Yeah, and we know, he's your bitter enemy, but we know Flip Gordon, Ring of Honor. I've seen him wrestling, I think, for Ring of Honor in New Japan as well. I think he went over there. And we know Donovan Dijek's a guy that you guys shared a locker room with, is in NXT. So we know what the ultimate goal is being in this business. And I'm telling you, man, if I was an investor, I would be getting in on your trust fund, because I think your dynamic of your group, I see it. This is exactly what I wanted this video to be about. To me, the lost art of a manager with these huge monsters. And I'm not going to make this video about bashing any major wrestling promotion in the directions that they don't do like they used to. But let's just go back to the glory days. I want to bring up another guy and get your opinion on him. Speaking of managers and monsters, Mr. Fuji. As I bring up Mr. Fuji, I can barely speak English. You see how that goes? I love Mr. Fuji. To me, what he did with guys like Demolition and later Yokozuna, what's your thoughts on that portion of WWE managing? And, of course, we bring in Paul Bearer into the big stage and The Undertaker. Thoughts on these guys?
Well, I think that an extension of what you read is just the fact that when managers were in abundance back in the day, you had so many of them that had not only that had different personas, but the people that they were with it was a natural fit for them because it was a different dynamic with every guy. Whereas, we talked about Bobby Heenan getting, at the time, Jimmy Hart making himself very front and center with the megaphone. Paul Bearer wasn't really a manager that was interfering constantly. He was kind of just in that role to add that extra flavor to the Undertaker and what he was portraying.
Yeah, like a compliment to the gimmick. Absolutely.
Exactly. That for Yokozuna. I think that's probably what was coolest about the whole. Everybody kind of felt like a natural compliment to the person that they were with. And I think that it can work in a multitude of ways where with Wrecking Ball, I am so colorful and cartoonish and so unlike his personality, but it's such a one works. Or you can go that where it does feel like, sidekick in a way of the person.
Well, you've evolved, because I remember a year ago watching you at the Niles show. You had a gray suit on, and in my memory, it was a suit. It was like a solid. Now I see you wearing pineapples, and to me, that's tremendous. Like, where did this come about? Did you go on vacation somewhere? Is it a new style that you've invested in on the trust fund? Like, I've had people asking me when they see me tweeting your stuff, where did this guy get this wardrobe? I think it's magnificent.
Absolutely. I think that it goes, again, when I was just starting out, when you here, I was a month into managing, and what I wanted to do the most, show everybody that I was business and not go too far left from previously that I kind of wanted to give off the impression that like this guy was just an employee and all of a sudden he's talking about like he's got this trouble. But like kind of slowly moving away from that, and eventually got to the point where I was just getting more flash, buddy, all the bling I've got, jewelry. It started with a white suit that really seemed to get under people's skin, and that just fires me up even more. I'm able to walk out there, and based strictly on what I'm wearing, people are already hollering at me because the more I get booed and the more people try to start chants against me, people were chanting their pants when I came out at one show. To me, that fires me up even more, just to know that I've got the people reacting based strictly on what I'm wearing before I've even said a word.
Yeah, it's brilliant. And I love the sunglasses. As you can see, I wear them indoors, at night, under the stars, whatever. So again, to me, it's brilliant. It's a lost art. I like seeing people like you and Wrecking Ball keeping this dynamic alive, because I know that as long as you are being who you are, and to people it's obnoxious, to me it's brilliant. Wrecking Ball is dominating, winning titles. To me, when you guys ever do get defeated, and I'm not saying you ever will, right? You're gonna break records, San Martino's record. But if you guys ever, if somebody comes along and they beat you and whatever, a fluke, to me, the heroes are made, because you guys are hated so much. And to me, I'd own that. I'd love that. I don't see that today in wrestling. And I'm glad you guys are doing what you do. Telling stories. Paul Bearer, we remember how Kane was introduced into WWF at the time. That to me is I'll never forget that story, the way they did that. I think it was fantastic. Do you ever think, I know working in the indies, it's hard to necessarily do storylines unless you're on TV, but knowing one day you guys could be on TV where you have writers writing for you, are you excited to tell stories beyond what you do in the ring? When I'm saying that, I'm talking about the stories like television, like Paul Bearer bringing in Kane, The Undertaker's baby brother. I thought that was fantastic. Does that run through your mind? Does that creativity run through your mind? Do you want to do stuff like that?
Oh, absolutely. And I think that now what your companies, a multitude of companies, whether they're on national television or limited television, if they're even just web or social media based, so much with pro wrestling that they're mediums to tell your story. I mean, look at Being the Elite, right? You know, a YouTube series that everybody sees and knows right when those guys go out to the ring, and they'll, you know, play off of that within Ring of Honor television. But really just use that as an example of how it's not what's happening in the ring anymore. It's the story goes beyond the ring. It's outside the ring. It's in the locker room, stage area. It is when these guys are out in public and choose to turn a camera on. They can advance a storyline at any moment that they choose to. It's something that I've kind of played with myself. I was out and about in May, and I wanted to.
We saw that, yeah, Times Square. That was awesome.
Yeah, I want to just film a promo in Times Square because I want to let people know that when the story can continue, you never know when you're going to get more information. And I think that that's what people. It seems to me like this era of wrestling fan, one of the things that they want is they want to feel like more information beyond the ring, outside the confines of an event. And I know that the bigger the company you go, the more they develop things like that. I mean, you look at what WWE is doing, what the network has allowed them to do as far as expanding the stories and so many different kinds of formats. When guys are outside of that arena setting, the story never stops. That really excites me.
Yeah, and you guys, and like I said, I've seen your progression over the past year from, you know, a fan side of the curtain, doing podcasts and shows for the various websites, and it's entertaining. Like, I am looking forward to the show on Saturday because I see some of the same familiar faces. We've seen guys grow up, right, and get hired by WWE. We see guys like you now at the top of the card for Northeast Wrestling. And you know what? I want to see you in Wrecking Ball, whether it's Impact, whether it's Ring of Honor, whether it's NXT, whether it's Raw or SmackDown. That I root for guys like you. Now, granted, when I'm at the stadium, I'll make sure I'm playing my part because you're not a nice man. Wrecking Ball's not a nice man, but that's the beauty of it. And I understand today fans cheer and boohoo for they want, right? You can't force an old school dynamic on them. But when I do see what like you do, what Wrecking Ball does, you guys are good at what you do, and you get the fans' proper reactions. And that is part of this Managers and Monsters lost art. Because to me, I just don't see it like I used to. And when I do, I'd private message you on Twitter, hey, let's do a show. So, gosh, man, this has been great. This has been great. I don't want to take up your whole – I know you're running the trust fund, man, and we're less than 7 days to what, Wrecking Ball versus Jack Swagger. Is this correct?
Absolutely, yes.
Anything you want to say about that show coming up? Everybody, if you don't, I live in Ohio. I live east of Cleveland. If you're anywhere in the vicinity of Niles, Ohio, which is kind of close to Youngstown, east of Akron and Canton, you'll look on a map, you'll see it. Northeast Wrestling, Wrestling Under the Stars, Saturday the 21st, 7:30 p.m. And the champ is Wrecking Ball Legursky, and his manager is Jared Silberkleit. Take it away, man. I mean, beyond that, what's going on beyond that too?
I give it a pretty good start. I mean, first of all, of course, we've got my guy, the Wrecking Ball, putting the title on the line. Who he once before in Waterbury, Connecticut, and now Swagger wants a piece of him. And I know that this is a match that both of them really want. I know on Wrecking Ball's end, he feels like he's more motivated than ever just to to defeat Jack Swagger, not only for a second time, but on a grander stage. On this wrestling with the gold on the line, what it means to be going against a former world champion, former WWE superstar, and to really make his mark on him. And once before, and I think this time he to kind of take a piece of him with him. Swagger's gonna do his best he can to weather this, but pounder, I'm not so sure about that. But I mean, it's a marquee match, and it's one that it's definitely fitting of being a Northeast Wrestling champion on any.
And you know what? I hope the tradition of having the big title match go on last of the show. I'm going to say 99% I'm confident that you guys will go on last. That's how it should be at every wrestling show. But we don't see that. Some days we see, and granted, in WWE, they have so many titles. So
right.
Obviously. But to me, when you're the champ, you are the main event. So that's what you guys are.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. I mean, I certainly hope it's the main event. Sometimes I think my boss is worried that Wrecking Ball he loves heroes. Maybe he's not going to send the fans home too happy. But I mean, it's definitely a worthy main event. I mean, what's great is on this show you really have two main events because Mysterio versus Penta Zero Miedo.
Yeah, we know, and that'll be fantastic. Yeah. It will be.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, and but I mean that's what you get with these Wrestling Under the Stars shows. Stacked super cards. This past Saturday, Rob Van Dam versus John Morrison, along with Flip Gordon, Josh Briggs, and Wrecking Ball against Jeff Starr. So with these Summer Stadium shows, I think that we just try to load up these cards as much as possible. We've got two enormous shows. Shows coming to Norwich, Connecticut, Ames Falls, New York in a couple of weeks, where the stars include the Bullet Club, the Kingdom, Christian, Billy Gunn, Swagger, Rey Mysterio. The list really goes on. Corey Graves and Renee Young, and special. Really, we have so many shows lined up for the rest of the summer. This Saturday night. Everybody come on out. It's this Saturday night, 7:30 p.m. This will be, I think, the fourth year in a row. And
I encourage everybody, like I said, if you live in Pittsburgh, Erie, PA, whatever, drive Cincinnati, make the drive, rent a hotel. Niles has some nice hotels there. They got a mall. Come to this show. I'm going to be there. I am going to be there, and it's going to be fun. Jared, thank you for your time. This is fantastic. And like I said, to me, anytime I can discuss what I believe is a lost art, and I see people in the wrestling business, the professionals, keeping it alive, trying to make it new again. And I like how you said that earlier, how some things, they're so old, they're new again. You hit that nail on the head, man. If you have any other plugs, now's the time.
And I want to remind everybody, you can follow me on social media, on Twitter and on Instagram at Jared Talks Loud, all one word.
Hey, Jared, say
And
that one more time. I think the connection chopped up real quick there.
So that handle for Twitter, and it's the same thing for both. Jared Talks Loud, all one word.
Gotcha.
And that is also my Facebook handle, facebook.com/Jared Talks Loud. You can follow Wrecking Ball at Wrecking Ball 75. And be sure to follow Northeast Wrestling, W Wrestling 1. That's all one word as well. At Northeast Wrestling on Instagram, northeastwrestling.com for info on all of our great upcoming events. So we really have a jam. If you are in Ohio, New York, Connecticut, Massachusetts, New Jersey, we're coming your way.
That's awesome. And of course, once we get these videos on all the sites, I retweet everything. So I'll make sure I have all those Twitter handles on there so everybody will be able to find Northeast Wrestling and everything you just mentioned. So thank you, Jared. I appreciate your time. So this is going to be going up on NoDQ.com, BigVito.com, and WrestlingWithWrestling.com. I am here once again with Jared Silber Kleit. My thanks to you, my man. And I will see you soon. But everybody, thank you for listening, and we hope you enjoyed. Talk to you soon. Hey, it's Virtue here from BigVito.com and the Big Vito Brand. And I wanted to let everybody know, in case you already didn't, go to ProWrestlingTees.com and search Big Vito, because you will see a spread of t-shirts that are must-owned. And you know what? Here is one as an example. So I hope Noel puts this on the end of some of my videos, because it really makes me look like a big deal that I'm doing commercials for Big Vito's t-shirts on ProWrestlingTees.com. But seriously, folks, you want to represent the Pavarotti of hard shots to the body? Seriously, no joke. You want to get color with the Big Vito and the Big Vito brand? Head on over to PWT. Everybody knows it as ProWrestlingTees.com, and search Big Vito, and you will be able to choose your size. And you know what? I believe once in a while they run promotions and sales, so you always want to look out for that. But anyway, I am Virtue from BigVito.com and the Big Vito brand. Thank you for listening to me.